So the day before my birthday, my kids went to this lecture, especially for children aged 7 and above, and this time it was on the first films ever made, and it was really great. So I had an hour to kill, and I went to this really cool little bar that was just outside the university. And you can see here, it's the Alte Pinakothek, which is a really old museum. It hosts all the ancient artifacts held in Munich. It's one of three museums called the Pinakothek in Munich. So I met with a friend, the mum of one of the other kids who was there, and we went and sat in this bar, really cool, funky student bar, kind of a perfect place to go the day before your birthday. And I don't drink so much anymore. I haven't had a drink in weeks, I don't think. So here we were sitting in this little bar, and we had a wine schorle each, which came in bottles, which was great. It was half wine, half fizzy water. It was refreshing and just hit the spot. Couldn't have any more as we were both driving, and I didn't want any more anyway. And here you can see all the other parents waiting for their kids. Now, this was a very rainy walk, the trail to the Drei Bethen Quelle. The path was soaked and the forest smelt so amazing. The spring is said to honour the Drei Bethen, Einpet, Gerbet and Furpet. You won't find the most history books and they're very obscure Christian saints, but they are much older apparently. Some believe the Bethen were once pagan goddesses, protectors of fertility, birth, healing and prophecy. The names vary across southern Germany, but it's always in threes, echoing the triple goddess, maiden, mother, crone. Others link them to the Morrigan, the Celtic goddess of fate and transformation, who also appears in triple form, often near rivers and wells. Places like this, sacred springs, were once the heart of spiritual life, long before churches, long before doctrine. People came for healing and blessings. And as we reached the spring, there was a woman in black, you can see her here. She was still and silent, holding this black umbrella. And beside her was this huge black dog, which looked like a wolf. She just stood there and then just disappeared. It's like she'd been waiting for us. It was really eerie. And then here I noticed a small wooden post covered in melted wax and old candles that people had lit for the three saints. The water flows straight from the rock, cold and clear. It winds its way down through the trees, wrapping around roots and moss-covered stones, like it's been doing this for centuries. It doesn't shout or surge, it just moves, quietly, persistently. We followed the stream a little bit down through the forest, and the kids ran ahead. It was really beautiful, and there was no one else there after the wolf lady, because it was a little bit chilly and very, very wet. I'd seen photos of these trees covered in ribbons and Tibetan prayer flags, but there were none when we arrived, so someone must have removed them. There was this incredibly beautiful old tree with these gnarly twisted roots, which is where I tied a ribbon to a low branch. It was a small wish sent on the wind and the rain. On the way back, we passed this house, which we'd only just seen on the way there, half hidden and built into the cliffside. Graffiti could be seen in the upper windows, and the bench was out the front. The letterbox is still there, and beside it was a crumbling shed filled with old tools and time. It felt like the place had been abandoned, or maybe it was a squat, who knows. But it did feel like a place that had been abandoned, remembered, and then forgotten again. Sort of a liminal space, one foot in the past, one buried in the soil. It was slightly eerie, though. And then, just when I thought the strange energy was behind us, we passed another house back towards the road. I lifted my camera and the door flung open. This man stepped out with kind of wild hair and round glasses, kind of my age, maybe 20 years older or younger, who knows. This was his letterbox. And I just stood there in shock. I said something nice about the house, and he just looked at me and went, "Nass geworden," which means got wet. I went, "Yeah, but it was cool," and I completely pegged it. Maybe he's the guy who removes all the ribbons. I mean, he was really strange. And then, almost back at the car, we passed an old building, an old farm, marked with the number 23. Look at that. This number's long associated with chaos, synchronicity, and magic, and it shows up when something's shifting and the veil is thin. And then we headed back to the car and to the beer garden where we'd parked. The food trucks were all standing there, and the storm was sort of passing. It wasn't as wet then. That was a really cool sign. And it was a strange birthday. It was quite sacred, it was stoked and a little bit surreal, and that's exactly how it was meant to be.